Yo, man, we finna go into some Tay-K, man. Let's dive deep into it.
Tay-K thinks he's getting released soon. Now, for people who don't know who Tay-K is, he's one of the biggest crash out stories in rap. And back in 2017, he went viral with a song called The Race, a song he made while he was literally on a run from the police. And that's what made this entire story so crazy. Because to the internet, Tay-K became this teenage outlaw figure. He was young, he was rebellious, he was reckless, and he was a criminal, right? A bunch of rappers were shouting him out. People were yelling, "Free Tay-K."
Yo, what's good, chat? Y'all trying to get a good microphone like me, nice quality and all that, man. Y'all trying to play the game and all that, stream. Look, link is in the description. I'm trying to hook y'all up on deals.
And for a lot of people online, the whole thing almost became entertainment. But the reality behind all that was way darker. This wasn't just some rapper going viral because he said something controversial or because he had a hot record. This was a teenager facing real criminal cases, real victims, real families behind his name, and consequences that were going to follow him for the rest of his life. And recently, Tay-K's name started going viral again. Yesterday, one of his family members posted a clip where it sounded like his lawyer was on a phone saying everything was set and final and that more details would be coming in the next few weeks. Then in the background, you can hear somebody asking what details he's talking about. And Tay-K's sister appears to say something along the lines of, "Your son is coming home," talking about her brother. Now, personally, I don't want to spoil my opinion, but I don't really believe that. But let's actually check out the clip, okay?
Easier. So everything's set and final, and in the next few weeks, I'll keep you posted with the details.
Okay, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Congratulations again. I'll speak with you soon.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
What are you talking about?
Your son coming home.
Girl.
Yo, what's that son coming home?
Yo, did you hear what she said in the background?
Your son coming home.
Girl.
But she was like, "Your son is coming home," and then she was like, "Girl," knowing damn well she lying, right?
Like,
so is Tay-K actually getting released? Now,
nah.
Listen, I appreciate that people can have hope through moments like this. Objectively speaking,
man, that nigga deep fried. I don't see that nigga coming home, Chad. That nigga like dirt. Both of their ass ain't coming.
Hope is a beautiful feeling. You can have hope that things are going to work out despite the circumstances.
Shit.
You can have hope that your little Toyota Corolla is going to turn...
I hope for $1 million. Shit. I hope that I can get out my situation, goddammit. I hope a lot of shit. You know? We all hope.
Into a Lamborghini Urus overnight in your driveway. You can have hope that the girl with all the red flags is just misunderstood and she's ready to be a housewife when really you know she's in her hot girl era.
Oh God.
Summer's here.
She finna shake that ass, chat. She finna shake that ass. Why, it's hot outside, about 90-degree weather, goddammit. And bro, she finna... Oh, bro, she finna go crazy.
But all jokes aside, when we're talking about Tay-K specifically, this is where we have to separate hope from reality. Because after I saw this clip, I was very curious. So I went straight to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice website. I searched Tay-K's government name, and according to the official prison record, nothing has changed. Alright, so right now we're on the Texas Department of Criminal Justice website, and as you guys can see, inmate information details right here, and that's Tay-K's government name. Race, black, gender, M, man, age 25. Maximum sentence date, 2099, August 8. Okay, and he's currently locked up in a...
Damn, 2099, boy. Shit. Oh my God, I plead. Come on.
Facility called Connolly. And it says right here, his projected release date is 2099, August 8. Parole eligibility date, 2049. Okay, August, it looks like August 7th. Okay, so Tay-K, like nothing has absolutely changed here. He's still gonna be behind bars from what we can see. However, right here it does say information is provided, or information provided is updated once daily during weekdays and multiple times per day on visitation days. So right now, as I'm recording this, it is actually a Saturday actually. So maybe on Monday, this is gonna change. It's gonna say, I don't know, 20, you know, might say 2095 or something. I don't really know, right? So I guess we'll see. But right now, the information on the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, okay, according to their inmate information details, nothing has changed. So that's what it is. So is he getting released anytime soon? Well, according to the official record, which basically says, he's not, okay? That boy's still very much in prison, and he's going to be in prison for a little while. Now, could there be something happening legally behind the scenes? Maybe. Could his family maybe be talking about some kind of appeal, a motion, a sentence issue, or some kind of legal update his lawyer is working on? His lawyer did sound pretty confident on that phone, okay? That's possible. Sometimes people who have been convicted still have legal options after the fact. But based on what is publicly listed right now, there's nothing on the official record that suggests Tay-K is about to walk out anytime soon. And to understand why this whole conversation sounds so ridiculous to a lot of people, you have to understand how Tay-K even got here. Now, I did actually make a video on this like 3 weeks ago, which is a pretty good video, so I'm not going to go into all the details that I did in that particular video. I will leave a link to that video in the description below. But let me kind of touch on it just for people who don't know who Tay-K is, or they don't want to go to that video and they just want some basic information quickly. So before Tay-K ever became nationally famous, his name had already been connected to serious violence. On New Year's Day of 2016, Tay-K's name appeared in police documents connected to the fatal shooting of 20-year-old Sarah Muchlechner in Denton, Texas. Sarah had been driving her friends home after a New Year's Eve party. She was the designated driver, okay, the DD, that particular night. And then a black SUV pulled up next to her car at a red light. She was in the car with her friends, and then they had a verbal exchange. And the driver in the car that Tay-K was in, his name was Eric Santana Sage, or Eric Santana Sage is his nickname, but his name is Eric Johnson. But he actually ended up opening fire on this car that Sarah and her friends were in. And then Sarah was unfortunately shot. She crashed her vehicle and then died. Now, to be clear, Tay-K was not the shooter. However, he was mentioned in official documents as someone connected to that vehicle that night. So he was inside the car. Now, Eric Johnson, the guy who killed this poor young woman, right? He was later found guilty of murder and sentenced to 44 years in prison. But that was the first time Tay-K's name ever showed up in a murder investigation, and it would not be the last. A few months later, in July 2016, Tay-K was involved in a home invasion robbery in Mansfield, Texas that left 21-year-old Ethan Walker dead. Ethan Walker was a young father with a daughter, a family, and a life that extended way beyond whatever happened in that house that night. And that's the part that sometimes get lost when people talk about people like Tay-K and his story, like it's just some viral thing on the internet that's disconnected from reality. But there was an actual person and actual people on the other side of all this shit, okay? Now, according to reporting on the case, this was a planned armed robbery. Several female suspects had gone to the house earlier that night as part of this setup. Be careful, fellas. And when they returned later, one allegedly unlocked the front door so the armed male accomplices could enter. This was a setup, right? And then those men entered the house and they demanded phones, cash, and drugs. Shots were fired. Ethan Walker was hit and later died at the hospital. Another man inside the house was also shot, but he survived. Several people were eventually charged in this particular case, and Tay-K was one of them. And Tay-K was actually only 16 years old at the time. So even though Tay-K was not accused of being the trigger man in that case, prosecutors still argue that he was part of the robbery that led to the death of Ethan Walker. So while that case was pending, Tay-K was placed on house arrest, and this is where the story takes the turn that made him infamous. Instead of showing up to court and facing the situation, Tay-K cut off his ankle monitor and ran. And he didn't exactly run quietly either. He put up this tweet right here and said, F this house arrest shit, I think, and then he said F12. So fuck the police, right? They're gonna have to catch me on him. Which is one of those moments when you kind of look back and realize that was not a tweet, that was a statement, that was a confession of bad decision making. So while Tay-K was on a run, he filmed a song called The Race, a song where he was basically rapping about running from the police, while actually running from the police in real life.
Hey, that shit went hard too, by the way, bro.
Wanted fugitive, and there was a manhunt for him. And when that song dropped, it exploded and it became really popular in hip-hop. In the music video, he was posted up with his own wanted poster. And the song eventually hit the Billboard Hot 100. A bunch of rappers showed him love, and people were saying free Tay-K, and that became a whole movement. And for a lot of people, the whole thing became this viral internet story about a teenage rapper outrunning the system. But behind the memes, behind the music videos, and behind the free Tay-K movement, there were families who had like their entire lives destroyed. And while Tay-K was on a run from the Ethan Walker case, prosecutors say he got involved in another deadly situation, this time in San Antonio on April 23rd, 2017. Mark Anthony Saldivar was found fatally shot at a Chick-fil-A across from North Star Mall. Mark was a young...
This is the murder that I know about. That's what I thought. That's when he did The Race right here. But he been doing the race. God damn it, you still committing crime. God damn, nigga.
Hispanic photographer from San Antonio with talent, a camera, and a whole future ahead of him. But according to prosecutors, the whole situation allegedly stemmed from a dispute over his photography equipment. Witnesses described a chaotic scene near the spot where he got killed, and people were fighting inside a black car. That's what these witnesses were saying. And then one witness said she saw a passenger in the front seat holding a gun. Another witness said she saw a Hispanic male get pushed out of the vehicle before jumping onto the hood of the car and stomping on the windshield. Then, according to testimony, the passenger leaned out and shot him. Prosecutors argue that Tay-K robbed Mark Saldivar of his camera gear, shot him, and then he took off. And that is the case that eventually led to Tay-K's 80-year sentence. Now, Tay-K's defense didn't just sit there and accept the state's version of events. His lawyer pushed back hard. Their argument was basically, yes, Mark Saldivar was killed. Yes, there was an altercation. But according to the defense, almost everything else was built on assumptions, guesswork, and testimony from people.
So shit, before all that, you know what I'm saying? But he was still doing a run though. But when he did that last murder, that you know what I'm saying, sentenced him to like 80 years. But let's say if he ain't did that murder charge right there, if they would have just caught him before he did that, he probably would have got at least like 40 or 30.
People who had their own reasons to blame someone else. They argue that the state could not prove Tay-K was the shooter. They argue that the state could not prove a robbery actually happened. And they argue that a lot of the case relied on people who were either inside the car or connected to the situation, meaning they had a vested interest in making sure the blame did not land on them. In other words, the defense was saying, don't just take the prosecution's version of the story because it sounds clean. Look at who's telling the story. Look at what they may have gotten in exchange. Look at what evidence was actually tested, and look at what the state can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. One of Tay-K's lawyers also focused on the physical evidence. There was a spent shell casing found in the vehicle. There was a gun connected to one of the co-defendants, and according to the defense, there was an issue with how long it took for certain evidence to be compared and tested. So their whole point was that this case was not as simple as Tay-K shot him and that's it. They wanted the jury to see holes in the investigation. They wanted the jury to question the witness or the witnesses. They wanted the jury to question whether this was really a robbery murder, the way the prosecution was describing it. But in the end, the judge and the jury did not agree with the defense, and they heard the evidence, rejected the defense argument, and found Tay-K guilty. And when it came time for sentencing, the jury gave him 80 years in prison. 80 years in prison, okay?
I ain't gonna lie, I feel like they probably helped his ass. And then, you know what I'm saying, when they was like, yeah, your ass finna do life, you better tell. Man, Tay-K did they all just told on his ass. Everybody just told on him, bro.
And the judge at the time addressed Tay-K directly, and what made that statement interesting is that the judge did acknowledge Tay-K's background. She talked about him being young when these offenses happened. She talked about his rough childhood. She talked about his parents not being good parents. She even mentioned Child Protective Services and basically questioned how society failed him before all this happened.
I don't know where your mom is. Don't know where your father is. I know that you had a rough childhood. And I do know that these offenses occurred when you were very young.
But then she brought it right back to reality, because no matter what Tay-K went through, Mark Saldivar, the young Hispanic man, was still dead. His family still lost him forever. And the judge basically told Tay-K that he still had a life. He still had a family who could visit him, and he still had a chance to better himself inside those prison walls. But Mark Saldivar did not have that chance anymore. And that's the part a lot of people just a lot of times skip over. Right. Because Tay-K's story is tragic no matter what way you look at it, because he just threw away his life for absolutely nothing. But it's not only tragic for Tay-K, it's tragic for Sarah Muchleshner, her family. It's tragic for Ethan Walker's family. It's tragic for Mark Saldivar's family. It's tragic for every person who got pulled into this chaos for absolutely no reason when they did not ask for it. And this is why the Tay-K's getting released soon conversation is like, feels so strange. Because yes, his family might have hope. Yes, they might believe something has happened legally. Yes, maybe his lawyer is working on something that we do not know about.
We hope that we get $1 million, goddamn. We hope that we get a Lamborghini in front of our driveway type shit. We hope, goddamn.
Yeah, and he did sound mighty confident, but from what we can actually see publicly, the official record says something completely different. Now, I mentioned an appeal earlier, and interestingly enough, in the robbery case that turned deadly, the one involving the young father, Ethan Walker, Tay-K's co-defendant, the actual trigger man, the guy who pulled the trigger during that robbery, his name is Letharian Merritt, and he actually tried to appeal this entire conviction. Now, Merritt was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to life without parole, and he took his case all the way to the Texas First Court of Appeals. His argument was that his post-arrest statements should have been thrown out because the arrest warrant allegedly lacked probable cause. He also argued that the affidavit used to arrest him left out important information, specifically that a key witness had lied to police. The court rejected his arguments and affirmed the conviction, life without parole upheld.
Shit.
So he's gonna,
not only that, you do shit in Texas, that's automatic life. Shit, your ass cooked.
gonna stay where he's at. So when people wonder if an appeal can magically undo everything, that's a reminder that appeals are usually a very, like, just an uphill battle. They can happen, and sometimes they matter, and sometimes they can work, right? But they're not the same thing as somebody suddenly being released. So if Tay-K thinks he's getting released from prison soon, or his family thinks he's getting released soon, the question becomes, based on what?
Right.
I'm Michael Jackson. Based on what? You feel me? Because unless something major changes legally, Tay-K is not walking out anytime soon. It is what it is. And honestly, that's what makes this story so wild. At one point, this was a teenage...
Unless Trump pass a deal or something, goddamn it. That's the only way I can see it. I don't see his ass getting out.
He actually had some type of... I mean, Tay-K got a few good songs. I think so, right? So he had some type of talent. And he did have attention, but for the wrong reasons. And he did have a song that the whole internet the whole internet and hip-hop specifically was listening to. So he had a viral moment. Every young rapper dreams about that, right? But he got it in the worst way possible. He didn't go viral because he had the best rollout or he made a song that was like touching emotionally. He went viral because he was running from the law. And when you build your fame around real life destruction, eventually real life catches up. So the internet can turn anything into a joke. The internet can turn a fugitive into a meme and put him on a pedestal and whatnot. The internet can turn free Tay-K into a trend, but a judge is not a comment section. A courtroom is not Twitter, okay? And prison time does not disappear just because people online fuck with the song. It is what it is.
Shit.
So maybe his family has hope, and maybe Tay-K himself...
Or when you young as hell, like 16, they don't give a fuck. Shit, you did that shit 16, you still did it. Your ass got life, nigga.
...believes there's still a way out, but according to the official record, Tay-K's freedom is still extremely far away. And unless something major changes, this is not a he's coming home soon story, okay? Like, it's not gonna happen. This is a reminder that the choices you make as a teenager can follow you for the rest of your life. Now, this kind of reminds me of another situation we've been talking about, which is the Sean Gathright story. And obviously, there are differences here. I mean, Sean, from what we know, was never really about that life and practically had everything going for him. Tay-K, on the other hand, came from a much more unstable background and was already around a lot of chaos at a young age. But even with those differences, I still think there's a bigger conversation here about young men crashing out in a way that honestly, just like this whole crash out shit needs to be studied, okay? Because at some point you have to ask, why? Why are so many young men throwing away their entire future for moments that don't even last? Like, seeking validation in this way can quite literally ruin your entire life. And I know a lot of people like to bring up Tay-K's background, and I get it. I'm not saying childhood trauma and what happens to you as a kid doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But if we're going to use the background as the reason for why he did this, for why someone ends up in this kind of situation, first of all, you probably been through a lot of shit. Were you out here catching bodies and doing a bunch of crazy shit?
Not only that, when you that age, you ain't really... Most of the time when you 16 and shit, 15, you ain't thinking like future-wise, shit like that. You thinking of the now. It's like whatever your guys on, it's basically practically what you on in a sense and shit when you were that age. It's like I'm outside the gas, shit. We on whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whoever wanna be on some shit, that's what we on. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is when you outside in a black community. Shit. But then it's like you gotta have that mindset like, man, I don't even want to follow that shit. You know what I'm saying? Nah, y'all go ahead. I ain't finna do that shit. You gotta have a real strong mindset as a kid too. You know what I'm saying? Don't want to be no follower. Bro.
No. Also, how do we explain someone like Sean Gathright? Because Sean wasn't raised like Tay-K. He wasn't known as some hard street dude. From the outside looking in, he had a lot going for him. He was a sweet little boy, right? And yet he still ended up in a situation where he was sliding. And he basically threw away his entire life. So at some point, I feel like people make too many excuses when it comes to this crash out mentality. Because no matter what your background is, throwing your life away is still throwing your life away. I mean, imagine being in your 20s and realizing that you might never, actually, you'll never be out, which means you'll never go to the beach again and touch sand with your feet. You'll never travel to the places you always wanted to see.
Shit, you can't even, you know what I'm saying, talk to your girl. You can't even get no girlfriend. You can't do shit. You can't make no money. You can't do shit.
You'll never wake up and just decide to go somewhere. You'll never sit in your own car, never build a normal family life, never experience basic freedom again, no matter how you look at it. That is devastating, right? But then again, these are not simple mistakes. We're not talking about forgetting to pay a parking ticket or cussing somebody out in public because they called you a bitch or some shit like that. We're talking about situations where people lost their lives. So as sad as it is,
imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
To see a young man throw his life away, it's also important to remember that there are families on the other side who lost somebody forever. And to all the young crash outs out there who are thinking about sliding, hitting a lick, robbing somebody, or doing some stupid shit for a few bands, my message to you is this. Keep in mind, that's basically how Tay-K's life changed forever in that robbery case where he was sentenced to 55 years behind bars. He quite literally, and this group of people, they quite literally had the mindset of, oh, we're gonna go in here, we're gonna rob them and, you know, get some money and drugs, whatever, right? That's what they were thinking. But the part a lot of people don't understand is this. You don't always have to be the person who pulls the trigger to end up buried under decades of prison time. If you are present, if you're part of the plan, if you're participating in the crime and somebody dies, my fellow YNs, you'll get the time. The law can and will still come down on you like you did it yourself hard because you were part of it. So technically you did it, right? And that's exactly why these situations are so dangerous because,
man, I look at it like this. Your ass planning, you know what I'm saying, to do some shit like that, rob somebody. You ain't planning on killing somebody, but you was robbing them. Why the fuck you kill them then? You should have, you know what I'm saying, like, shit don't go as planned. That's how it be. Bro.
What starts as, yo, we're about to hit a lick.
Like, you don't rob motherfuckers.
A body, somebody dying, somebody dead.
You don't know
Families
what you
destroyed,
doing.
and a teenager spending the rest of his life in a prison cell. So many young lives were ruined in this entire process. And for what? Absolutely nothing. Now, is Tay-K getting out soon? Well, if I was a betting man, I would bet against it. Actually, I would quadruple bet against it. Because according to Tay-K's inmate information, he is eligible for parole in 2049. By that point, Tay-K would be around 49 years old. And his projected release date is listed as 2099. That would make him 99 years old by that point. Now, is it biologically possible for a human being to live to 99? Yeah. Of course. People live to 99. Like, that's a thing. People live to 100. It happens. But are we really betting on Tay-K living to 99 years old behind bars?
I don't think nobody live 100 years old in jail. I don't think so. Because the conditions in jail, you definitely not finna live that long. Because you eat differently. You poor food, you ain't got no nutrition, no none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? You eating kind of slop, so most likely you ain't living up to no 100. Hell nah.
Especially with prison food, prison stress, prison politics, and just the overall reality of being incarcerated for that long. I don't think that's very likely. Yeah. However, like Justin Bieber once said, I will never say never. Tay-K, this for you. I will fight to forever. But the point is, when your projected release date is a year where you would be 99 years old, that is not a release day you celebrate. That is basically the system telling you you might technically still have a release date, but your life you knew it is over. And we will get that sweat equity out of you. If you made it this far, drop a like on this video, and of course subscribe if you're new here. My name is Black Speaks. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, that nigga, man. I feel sorry for Tay-K, but he did it though.